You're going to be around.
You'll be
That's hilarious. It's like,
Time is 6:02. I call this meeting of the Godley Independent School District to order. Let the record show a quorum of members is present. The meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Mr. Frazier, do you mind helping us with the invocation and the pledges, sir?
Yes, sir. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you so much for this day that you blessed us with, and I thank you for these humble public servants that have gathered here to serve the community of Godley and the schools and the students. And I ask that as we go through tonight, the things they study, the decisions they make will be in accordance with your will. And God, we're grateful for the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus Christ. And it's in his holy and precious name I pray. Amen. And now for our pledges, if you would please rise if you have them. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Chief, did we have anyone sign up for public participation?
no public comment.
Thank you. All right, next we will go to budget workshop. Spencer.
All right, good evening, board. Good evening, everyone. So this is going to be a preliminary review of the budget for the 25-26 school year. I wanted to give you a lot of information associated with where we're at, potentially some decisions that you can look at and make as a board to bring back to me next time with some thoughts on it before I propose the final one in June, on June 16th. So what we're going to go over is what are our budget priorities for Godley ISD right now. We'll look at the enrollment, ADA, attendance, property values, tax rates, and then go into the proposed budget with campus and department allocations. And then since this is our first year that we're doing this on a June year end, what are the next steps and how that works, because it's going to be a little bit different than how we've done in the past. All right, so
Before you go into the details, can we briefly talk about what you are looking for in the form of feedback? What kind of information do we need to convey to you tonight so that as we look forward in prep for our meeting in June, we can enable you?
Sure. So any questions that come up on any of the items that are here, feel free to let me know if you want to know specific details of it. But my interpretation was I wanted to give you the information, let you sit on it for a couple of weeks, give me some information as you kind of come up with it over the next couple of weeks. So for our June 9th budget workshop, we can iron out some of those details and then have a perfect copy for you on June 16th.
If we have questions over the next few weeks, would you like us to email them, or do you want to do one of those like working documents that we've done in the past where everybody posts their question to that document, and so everyone can see that you're not fielding the same questions 7 times?
Yeah, we can do that. That's a great idea. Okay. So budget priorities are, number one, ensuring that the current staff that we have still have positions. We've seen a lot of districts around that are having to cut staff, lay off staff through attrition. Proud that Godley ISD is not one of those. So we're not getting rid of any positions, and so in fact we're adding some positions that we'll show you a little bit later. And the main goal of doing that is to make sure we have a balanced budget. We've gone 5 years of using fund balance, and so we need to start having a balanced budget and then putting some money back into fund balance.
So that latter part of the statement, will you show us tonight, or should we expect in June to see what a projected amount to go into fund balance would be?
So I'm presenting a balanced budget, so there would be nothing going into fund balance right now. If through discussions we want to talk about adding some money and taking some money out of some allocations so that we can add to fund balance, that's definitely an option.
Thank you.
And then making sure to continue to invest in safety and security of students and staff, and that also includes technology protections, and so making sure that we're always on the forefront in investing in those areas. And then I think there's been a lot of talk about obviously raising teacher pay. We want to raise all staff pay, right? So not just teachers, because there's a lot of people who make the school district go around, and so by doing that, we want to make sure that we have the existing money to protect ourselves in the future with fund balance. And so we'll talk about what that pay increase would potentially look like. So this is our current enrollment over the past 4 years. So, over the past 3 years with projected of next year. So you can see that each year we've grown significantly in the past couple of years, and we're looking at growing significantly again moving into the 25-26 school year. So looking at adding around an additional 213 students next year, which is a little, or it's around 5-6% of growth, which is what we've continued to see since we've started growing over the past few years. The current enrollment broken out, if we look at it by campus, you can see the snapshot, so the October snapshot, October of 2023, you'll see the district was at 3,002. The last day of 23-24 last year was 2,967. A couple of reasons why from October to the end of the year that you see some going down. We have our links graduates, so about 30 links graduates makes up for a majority of that piece there, and then if we had some transfers in or out, but the majority of that is due to links. And then looking at the first day in 24-25, we were at 3,044 students, and then currently as of yesterday, we were at 3,154. So again, continuously growing. And then the estimated ADA, right, because we're not funded off of enrollment, we're funded off of how many students come to school. And so you can see the difference that the admin staff at the campuses are making. There's been growth in every single campus as far as attendance is concerned. So super proud of them for doing that. And you can see that moving into next year, we're looking at doing the same thing, so increasing every year moving forward, getting to that 95% threshold.
So obviously with the projected increase in attendance, first question comes to mind, what are we doing differently? We can't just expect attendance to increase on its own.
Correct.
So at some point, can we talk about that?
Yeah, well, we can talk about it right now. So one of the things that you as a board, you had tasked us and admin specifically at schools to develop a plan to figure out growth. One of the things that I empowered them to do is I gave them a budget for attendance incentives. And so I don't know if any one of you want to come up and talk about what you did at your campus. That might be helpful for the board.
Well, while they come up, can I ask a quick question about, do we know what the average attendance is at like Joshua, Cleveland, Burleson, Grandview?
I have not looked at those.
I'm just curious if you knew that. Okay.
And I have a quick question too. Are we currently?
Before we leave that, can we take that for action to bring that data to us at the next meeting?
We can, yes, sir.
Or in the book,
Yeah.
however we're going to communicate?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Are we currently accepting transfer students, or is that on hold across the district?
We are, yes,
All campuses?
all campuses.
Is that you?
No.
Elementaries are
On hold?
Well,
So middle school and high school, we are accepting transfer students?
we're still accepting applications.
Have we accepted any transfer students for next year?
Yes.
Yes.
And I have some meetings scheduled for July for next year. Does that make sense?
I would encourage folks to use the mic. I know it may take a bit to get it to the right place, just so that if we do have folks online, they can hear.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, we've accepted 3 as of this last week on the transfers that have been allowed at the high school alone. I know some of them have others still. As far as attendance goes at the high school, the third 9 weeks with the attendance incentive, we did the bounce house party. That was the advice from the principal's advisory committee, is they wanted a bounce house. So kids who had perfect attendance in the third 9 weeks got to go out and we had a bounce house, sodas and drinks and popcorn, and they got to spend about an hour or so out playing and having a good time for a break. So that's what we did at high school for the third 9 weeks, that increased it in that realm specifically with that money. So.
In the fall, we did a clue game, which they had to be present to win daily prizes and get the clues. And then after Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we had an incentive that was both tied to behavior and attendance, where they earned a party reward right before Christmas break. And then in the spring, we did 3 parties if they were present all of the month. And then we had a pizza party. And then after the first one, we went from 45 kids or something like that to over 100 in the second party. So our attendance increased dramatically just from that. And then we did, for just the weekly attendance, if they were present, they got a popcorn, like we drew names for popcorn and candy on Fridays, which was like bigger than anything else we did, ironically, but yeah.
And I'll speak for all 3 elementaries. I know Dr. Block does the Bobcat Cash, where you have to be present, you get the cash, you get to spend it, bounce house party, some goodies for purchase, things like that. RB Godley has done the same thing. I know Eli got to go to a bounce house party. He was super excited about that. At Legacy, we've done, ironically, like the ice cream sundaes went over way better than the bounce house party. It was really kind of interesting. But and then each grade level kind of gave them their freedom this quarter to do kind of what they wanted, and some bounce house parties, some extra recess, some popcorn parties, things like that. So.
Are we recognizing perfect attendance and like a certain percentage attendance, like in our year-end awards ceremonies?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, lots of yeses and a no from high school.
So with those are things that we've done this year. What in additional are we doing to achieve this increase in attendance
For next year. So one of the things, the budget for attendance incentives was just for the spring semester this year. Since we saw it increase almost 0.5% of attendance just in the spring semester, we're also going to give them that budget for the fall semester as well. So to try some of these activities during the fall semester too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize, I thought we were just talking about the money. We also did some, like, you could wear hats if we hit a certain attendance percentage as the high school early in the fall. They did that well for a few weeks, and then it just didn't ever hit the goal again that we needed. I'm really excited about next year. We have a new attendance clerk coming on, Ms. Salazar, in my Johnson County Principals Collaborative that I meet with the other principals in Johnson County. Cleveland has done a really cool thing where they have increased their attendance, and a lot of it is through that attendance clerk and getting the kids early when we start noticing a problem, so catching them before they become a truancy problem. So why are you not coming? What's going on? What's going outside of school? We also have ideas next year for our career prep kids. Some of the kids work late hours, and right now our career prep is only on the last 2 periods of the day. We're going to flex one of those to a late arrival for the career prep kids if they're working late, so they can sleep in a little because they miss a lot of first period or second. We think if we can give them first period off instead of just the last 2, because they don't go to work till 6, so they don't need to leave at 1. They can come in late the next day. We hope that'll help some of our career prep kids that are really tired because they're working until midnight, some nights. So that's going to be what the high school's going to do next year. We have a whole outline in the flow, and we have a new clerk who's an ex-Marine. So I'm super excited about her being very detail structure oriented in that role and staying on top of it from the get-go. I'm so excited for Ms. Salazar next year.
Real quick, So I Googled a little bit of trying to get an average daily attendance percentage for the Texas public school. And from what I see is 90-95% is from the things I'm seeing. So I mean, I just Googled it. Nevertheless, one question I had is on our snapshot of enrollment, first day of 24-25, 820 at our high school. And then, am I reading this right? We're going to end the school year with less than we started in
So
high school?
that goes back to Link's kids again graduating.
Okay. Oh, I missed it, sorry.
Yeah, so the high school Lynx is under the high school's number, so Lynx is a part of the high school. So when those kids graduate, they automatically fall off the number. Lynx graduated 39 students this
We
year.
want that number decreasing, we kind of, in a sense, we want it to go down a little.
It's a weird anomaly in every high school I've ever been a part of. The freshman class is always the biggest, and the senior class always shrinks from where they start. It just is the way it works. But Lynx is doing a great job getting those kids graduated, but it does shrink that number.
But if we were to break it down by grade, or 9th and 10th grade, probably it saw increases.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to preliminary tax rates. So on the left-hand side, you can see the total tax rates for 24-25 fiscal year. So our M&O Tier 1 MCR rate is 61.69. So that is actually the floor of what TEA says that we can offer. So we're at the lowest Tier 1 rate. And then the M&O Tier 2 rate, which are enrichment pennies, are at 17 cents. So that's where you get the 8 golden and 9 copper pennies from. And then our INS rate is at 50 cents for a total tax rate of $1.2869. Moving into the 25-26 school year next year, we're looking to decrease that by 1.47 cents. And so that specifically comes from the M&O Tier 1 MCR rate being compressed. So in House Bill 3 from 2019, if the compression goes above 2.5% statewide growth, then that has to come down based on what the state value is. So our state value is around 1.89 billion, and so that's what compresses us down a little bit more than we would have.
Spencer, in no way, shape, or form do I want to increase taxes. That if we did not decrease our taxes, so if we kept our M&O Tier 1 at what it currently is, no change, what would that equal to in dollars adding to our budget?
So we statutorily could not keep it there.
Okay.
So
Because
we're,
of the
we're required to do compression.
Okay, all right, thank you. I
but-
thought so.
Yeah, but pennies on the dollar is going to be about $200,000-$300,000 depending on what tier we're in.
Okay, thank you.
And so just about these, this is a big worksheet of what our taxes look like. I'll kind of go through it, but talk a little bit about the rate real quick. So the tax rate that you have in front of you and that we will propose moving forward is not official until August 1st. So when we look at doing the budget and tax rate, typically in August, we've adopted the budget and then the tax rate. Moving forward in June, we will only adopt the budget in June, and then we will adopt the tax rate in August. And that is because that has to be after our certified values come in on July 25th of every year, and then after TEA certifies our Tier 1 MCR rate August 1st. So if you look kind of in the middle, there's a summary of finance numbers, and then right below that is the total net certified value. That's the preliminary total net certified values from Johnson, Hood, and Tarrant counties. These numbers, again, are going to depend on the amount of protests, the amount of changes that occur, but currently it's based on a little over $2 billion. For comparison purposes, the prior year certified was $1.92 billion. So if you look on the side, it's a 5.17% increase in our tax roll. Down below that prior year certified, you see there's the MCR calculated T2 and then manually calculated T2. So the state just says, okay, however your certified values grew or decreased, then that's what your MCR, your T2 rate is going to decrease or increase by the same amount. That's not necessarily exactly what happens, and so always try to do a manual calculated T2 to kind of see if we're in the same ballpark. We're within $3 million, so it's not going to be that big of a change in funding, depending on which one comes in.
So can I ask a quick question, talking about values, appraised values, certified values, and the fact that you've got people that are protesting value of the notices that they just received in April. So my question is, if someone is disputing a value that they received, that would be a value increase. The county wouldn't necessarily decrease the value below what it was last year.
So since we're completely separate from the appraisal district, I don't know exactly how they would do it. Theoretically, yes, you would not want to decrease the value beyond what it was in prior year unless there was something significant on the property. That being said, with Johnson County having frozen values that for 3 years, that is potentially something we could look at. Definitely not growing. Losing money, I don't think so, but not growing as much. That 5.7% is usually 8, 9, 12% that we've been seeing, and so this is the first year that we've seen kind of that difference of the values being frozen.
Mineral values went down, and that affected stuff. And I've seen appraisal districts like Lake Travis, the water is so far down. A lot of those values started tracking back the next years. I mean, we don't have those, but it theoretically could. The appraisal district can reduce them.
And I don't know if anybody watched the video of Fred Campos from Tarrant County Appraisal District. Very informative on how the freeze will affect a taxpayer over time versus the small incremental increase over each year. It was basically, it would end up costing the taxpayer more, having to be more impactful with a tax increase exponentially at the end of 3 years versus paying a little bit each year up to the third year. But it's on YouTube if anybody wants to look at it. Fred Campos, Tarrant County Appraisal District.
Yeah, it's never occurred before, so yeah, there's a lot of guessing on potentially what would happen. Do we go up 5%, and then say, for example, 15%? That's to be determined. We don't know how that's going to impact us, correct?
That $2 million net certified number, does that include any new, if somebody bought a house 8.5 years ago and we hadn't been seeing any of their tax money yet, but now we are, that is included in that number, correct?
That's correct. So
that could actually kind of explain that 5.17 increase.
Right, and last year we were about 139 million of new money. This year is 169 million of new money. Also, one of the reasons we're still seeing an increase is because of the difference of the homestead cap. So until those get leveled out with the appraised market, we'll see some growth there too.
Quick question. This data, is it provided to us from someone, or are you provided a formula and we calculate it?
For which one?
For the taxes,
So
the proposed revenue, tax revenue, that data.
So that comes from my calculations until we get a certified roll from the county. So as an example, we take the 1.29 last year, and then moving forward, the 2.02 billion, and we multiply that out by our pennies, divided by $100 of valuation, and that's what gets us the M&O and INS revenue.
Makes sense. So where I was going with that is I'd be curious to see what if every house, every home pay its share 100% across the district compared to what's collected? Meaning, what is the delinquent percentage, what is the unpaid percentage, and how is that accounted for, and how do ours compare to other districts?
Yeah, so we actually collect, we've generally been collecting about, so we've been collecting about 99% of any given year. This year, we're a little bit less than 99%, so that means that 1% of delinquent rolls over, and we use Purdue Brandon, our tax delinquent attorneys, and so they handle the collection on that piece.
Yes, where I was kind of going is, it kind of gives you a good a scope of the economic climate, if you will, on what that delinquent rate is, and not really the money per se. I was more thinking like if we've got 7 million homes and there's we have 2.2% delinquent out of then it comes to and then how does that compare? How does our district compare for collecting compared to other districts and so forth?
Gotcha.
It's just data. I'm just kind of nerding out on data. Sorry.
I mean, if you want that data, I'm sure we can.
Can you provide the historic collection rate as a percentage, similar to what you've done comparing attendance rates?
Okay.
Yeah, Purdue and Brandon probably could provide it. It's probably as easy as asking them.
What would be a little bit more detail is if you want it broken out by type of property, so like commercial versus houses, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely look at getting something for you. And kind of on that point, at the very bottom, under that same column, you can see the average market value for homes. So Hood County, Johnson County, and Tarrant County are all listed there. So an average across those three is about $375,000 for a residential house. Last year was about $355,000, and we'll see that on the tax notice here in just a bit. But this is the information that we're using for our revenue. The biggest piece is for us to figure out, as a school district, how much money do we have to work with? And how the formula works is we have to determine what our local share is first, which then determines what our state share is, and then that's where we start building the budget from there. As I mentioned, this is the preliminary tax notice. This tax notice will go out on Thursday, May 22nd. This is for our June 16th board meeting. It's what we usually post in August, but again, since we're adopting everything, the reason why we still publish the budget and the proposed tax rate is that if our rate comes in at 77.22 cents or lower, we do not have to republish the notice. And so that saves some money on sending it out to the newspaper and having it run. So as long as the rate, which we do not expect it to go over 77.22, we won't have to renotice when we bring a rate to you to propose in August. You can see along the side one of the things on the far right for the fund balances. If you remember last year, that proposed fund balance was about $2.7 million on the M&O side. We've done a lot of hard work this year, including the admin, and so we're pushing back into that fund balance this year, adding a little over $2 million projected. And so that's getting us up to just at $4.7 million of fund balance. So we're on our way in the correct direction. We've used the fund balance, and again, at holding level, we're putting back into it. And then this is the calculation as it relates to comparison of proposed rates from last year, and then again the comparison of on that average house that we just talked a little bit earlier. Again, these are based on April numbers, not the certified numbers, so these are more than likely going to change. They're not ever going to be 100% accurate. We try to get as close as possible, but it also doesn't include any legislation. So Everything we're talking about today and everything that I provided to you is based on current law. So it does not assume any additional money or any homestead exemptions that the legislature may or may not do. All right, so when we look at the proposed budget, I have it broken up by general fund, food service, and then debt service as a board. Those are the three that you are proposed and then you consider for adoption. The general fund, we just talked about our local taxes. Other local revenue would be interest earned on our money in the bank. It could include information from athletic events, etc. So that's what other local revenue would be. The state revenue is a combination of state FSF funds, ASF funds, so which is just the foundation program, on behalf funds as well. And then the federal revenue is made up of SHARs and indirect costs on our federal grants. SHARs is one of the areas where we've lost a lot of revenue based on the state failing random monitoring tests as a whole and them taking it out of our percentages across the state. So previously, a couple of years ago, we were getting in about $400,000, $450,000 of charge revenue. It's essentially been cut in half. And so we're not expecting a lot there. Again, there is some pending legislation that potentially would impact that and give us that opportunity to have more funding. But until that happens, we're going to stay at the lower end.
Question for you on the food service, other local revenue, $560K. Help me understand that.
So those are payments that students make for the lunches. So paying for lunch, a la carte items, different things of that nature. Then we'll go over to food service. So food service, again, other local revenue is from students paying for lunches. State revenue, they do some state matching that we get some additional funding for. And then our federal revenue is where we get a majority. That's our National School Lunch Program, which is where we claim breakfast and lunch for the free and reduced kiddos. So that's where that money comes from. And then debt service, we talked about the $225,000 is expected interest revenue, and then the $1.1 million of debt service funds is associated with a projected hold harmless from TEA based on prior years. So again, that number more than likely is probably going to go down. And then when we look at function levels of all those items, you can see we spend almost 50% of our budget completely in instruction. If we look at instruction, library, media, curriculum, instruction, all specifically related to the classroom, we're well over 50% of the funding that goes directly to classrooms. That doesn't include the principals on campus or other staff, nurses, counselors, so there's a whole lot greater percentage that goes into there. The other big piece...
Before you move off of that, since you mentioned administrative and et cetera, what category is that going to fall in?
So their school leadership is in function 23. So that's going to be your principals and office staff.
Good question. Do you happen to have this this slide, for instance, handy for like the last 5 years? Like that's the exact same snapshot.
We can get it.
That would be cool to see. I mean, you've done it, and if you have this snapshot for the last 5 years, I mean, I feel like Spencer's done such an amazing job of finding ways to optimize the budget and cut back where we have to. Like so much I want to give on my wife's budget. But anyway, I think it would be really cool to see the things that you've done and the efficiencies that you've created over the last few years.
Yeah. So I always say that I'm an expert of how much. The group back there is the expert in how, and so they've been given the less amount in making that work. So I get credit for giving them less money, but they get credit for doing more with less. But no, I appreciate that. and we can definitely get that for you. The big piece, if you look, there's two main ones, function 51, which is our maintenance and operations, and function 93, which is our shared service arrangements. Between both of those, that makes up 20% of our budget. That's specifically related to insurance costs, utility costs, maintaining the district grounds, custodial, etc. That's in function 51, and then our shared service agreement went up about 20% this past year. So our payments to the JCSSA co-op has gone from a little over 2.1 million to over 2.5 million.
How much is that because of the federal went down?
So some of that is also because the federal went down in SHARS. It's also because we continue to put and have more students in special education that are part of that program. So we're, I believe, 54% now of the entire co-op, which is of 4 districts. And so we make up more than half of that co-op right now.
Every year we touch on this, that we keep saying when is it going to be more beneficial for us to do all of that in-house? Are we still continuing to actively monitor when that becomes more beneficial for us?
Yes, ma'am. So actually just got data back on May 1st with the new iteration of data. Based on that information, we potentially could look at bringing that back in-house. The problem is that since bonds were voted down, we don't have the space for them currently. And so we would have to find space to utilize where those students would go.
Financially speaking, how would bringing that, can you let us know how bringing that in-house would positively affect our budget at some point? I know that we can't do it right now because we don't have the space, but it could become a discussion point if and when we do have the space.
As of right now, if we took just base estimations, it's costing us about $50,000 to stay in the co-op as opposed to bringing it in-house.
And that would, if things continue on the same track, that will only
continue to grow. Yep, you're correct.
So can we estimate based on historical numbers that have attended JCSSA, put something together that would say here's the amount of space that we need so that that could be taken into account as a part of our facility planning?
Sure, absolutely. All right, so the next thing I wanted to do is, after looking at that, kind of talk through filling buckets, right? So trying to find the easiest way to visualize how much money takes into running a school district and how much funds as a board that you have control over. So 76.17% is in payroll. That number is a little misleading because we have Godley staff in JCSSA that we're paying through the JCSSA payment. So if we brought those back in-house, our budget would be in the mid-80s. So again, it's a little misleading to say our payroll is only at 76%. It's really above 80% when you look at the overall staff that we have. But this number also includes 8 of the 13 FTEs that you as a board have graciously approved for the staff. And it includes a average 1.3% step raise. So as of right now, there's no funds to be able to do a district-wide raise. And so again, we're looking at making sure the staff that we have continue to have a job and not overextend ourselves. We always look for ways to be able to support staff and supplement staff. One of those ways is through our December retention stipend. And so if there's any additional funding as a board, I would bring that to you for potential consideration to maybe increase it if we had the funds at that time. But I know last year we took out the December stipend at the very beginning to make sure that we had enough funding. It's currently in there right now. So projecting keeping that in there so that they don't have to wait to hear. I think the admin staff's been doing a great job with attendance, and something we don't necessarily have to, knock on wood, worry about next year.
the remaining 5 FTEs are not in the budget you talked to us?
That's correct.
Does
So,
that mean that we're not going forward with hiring?
we currently do not have the funding for them. If things change, say for example, the state gives us additional funding, we would make sure to pay and give raises to our existing staff and then potentially look at adding those positions in afterwards. As a board, you approve those if additional funding was available.
And those 5 positions are?
So one of them, so we've hired, or had positions for 3 of 4 police officers. So one of those is a police officer. A couple of them are related to CTE programs, as well as an additional counselor. And then the other one is related to like a choir teacher.
At what point can you provide us an update on the Godley teacher pay compared to all the other districts around us like we have seen in the past?
We can, I can have that for you next time. That way you can look at where we are in comparison to districts around us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so majority of our items go to payroll, but then we have fixed costs, right? So this is a year-by-year look of what it costs us for some of our fixed items. So we have district maintenance, utilities, insurance, again, that includes custodial grounds, et cetera. We have our JCSSA payment, which we just talked about. We have technology and cybersecurity. And so between all of those, that makes up almost 16% of our budget. So again, you can see that we've increased $700,000 just by our fixed costs. The 213 students that we have coming in generate about $1.4 million, $1.5 million. A step raise is about $700,000. So between fixed cost increases and paying step raises, we only have about $100,000 to $150,000 left of quote-unquote new money to push into the program because of this fixed cost item. With that, our JCSSA payment we talked about went up 20%. Our insurance costs last year it went up 18%. This year I've talked to our agent and he's projecting around 5 to 8%. I left it at 10% because it went up 18 last year, and 5 to 8 is, I think, very aggressive. So backed off of that a little bit. And then again, the entire district. So between those 2 items, we're at 92% of our entire budget. Then we have our instructional costs, all right? So we have our campuses. You can see that every single campus is getting an increase of funding because we do this on a per pupil basis and then weighted accordingly by the campuses for their special population, so they get additional funding if they have more special education, ESL students on the campus. And so you can see there that every single campus is getting some additional funding to push back into their students in the program.
Thanks, Spencer, real fast. Backing up to the fixed costs. Insurance increased about, you said just shy of 10%, and then the prior year was
18%.
18. Okay. How do we combat that? Do we shop that? I assume we do, obviously, but.
We do. So this is a 3rd year of a 3-year contract with a vendor through PCAT. As Godley ISD, we've been with this vendor for a significant period. There was a vendor that reached out to me and a lot of other local districts in the Johnson County area to do a survey. I have not yet got that survey back of what insurance looks like. Obviously, I think that vendor is trying to see, is there any way that we can provide this at a lower cost? And if it's something as a group around local ISDs that we do, potentially there might be a group right there. But yes, we after this year, 25-26 year, we are potentially going to look at what we can do on the insurance side.
Spencer, I have a quick question on the slide that we were looking at prior to this one. No, sorry, the one where you broke down by campuses, the high school, middle schools. Yeah. So I know that when you first came on board, you had to go and kind of tell people we were looking for areas to cut the budgets. So, still answering your question? Oh. Okay, so are these numbers that, would they reflect us just returning to kind of where each campus's budget was before you went and had everybody cut? Or is this an increase, or is it still lower than what it was?
I believe it's still lower than what it was. But with that, we've been making some changes in the way that we're purchasing things, and so that is helping bring down the costs originally. So yes, we're getting back to that point as a total number, as a per like student basis. It's staying the same. Like we're giving each campus a set amount and then multiplying it by their students. So as the students continue to increase, you'll see the money come back up and go over what it was.
Thank you for that question. Thank you for recognizing that, Kristen. I just want to commend the principals because you see a couple of those are pretty big bumps. That's because they're getting back close to normal, but they're still not back to normal. And I just want to commend the principals. They've done so much more with less. They've just done a great job. So thank you for recognizing that, Kristen.
Well, and it's that they've got more students. That money's not, it doesn't really reflect a huge bump in money because they have more students that they're having to serve. And so, but it's nice to see that those aren't going down. So we'll keep working.
I've told them that I don't ever want to have to come in and take money away from them again. If anything, we'll shoot low and then add money later back on. So once we add those campus costs in there, 351,000, our library STEM, GT counseling, readiness, and then our academic office and curriculum, we're at 96.2%. So that reflects payroll, fixed costs, and then everything related to the classroom, and we're at 96.2% of our budget, which means we have 3.8% to work with, right? I think that's a big key that is a myth in school finance, that we have a lot of money to play with. And why I wanted to go through this exercise, because out of a $39 million budget, there's $1.5 million that are not accounted for technically at the beginning of the year, so that we can allocate where is needed. And so that relates to, and this isn't an exhaustive list, so these are just some of the main items. So that's athletics, transportation, which we know we have to do, nursing, elections, so when we call school board meetings, audits, HR, school board expenses, so when y'all go to trainings, different things of that nature, our debt service, and then another big one is the payments to the CAT office. So that number continues to go up each year. So our number is based on a percentage of growth. So it is going to go up, but I still don't like it seeing it go up. Previously we were under 300,000. Now we're looking at being around 330,000 of payments to the CAT office. So when we look at some of the groups specifically, and look at 24-25 compared to what we're projecting in 25-26, you can see we have athletics, fine arts, CTE, and ag. And so these are some of the programs that I want to draw your attention to. Athletics is going up. That number is a little bit off because what we did is we actually pulled cheer out of the athletics budget and we put cheer into the fine arts budget. And so the athletics is growing, so that number would have been about 40 to 45 students higher, so it would have been around 1360. And then since we added in about 40 students on the fine arts side as well.
Can you walk us through why you decided to move cheer from athletics to fine arts?
Yes, ma'am. So cheer's UIL sport. And it's specifically in UIL Spirit division, as opposed to UIL Athletic division. And so through that, we determined that it was a much better fit to be within the fine arts, which includes dance, because that's also an indoor-outdoor program as well.
Having sat on the FFA Booster Club Board and the Athletic Booster Club Board, these aren't even a fraction of what's needed to fund those departments. You know, we've got a great booster club, a great team that really do a good job fundraising, and I know band's amazing also. But yeah, I mean, it's just a testament to how off we are on being able to fund what these kids need.
Right. Yeah, for them to be able to participate as much as they participate, yes, absolutely, great point. And just breaking out a little bit more.
Before we move on, so I noticed on CTE and AG, you don't have a number of participants. Is that something you're going to be able to fill in before June?
So CTE is really based on the number of students we have in the classrooms. And so we can get that number for you. I didn't have that number. And then AG is a little bit different. We're still waiting on that number. And so we can definitely look about potentially getting it later on.
Thank you.
Can you speak about the lower budget for AG?
Yes, ma'am. So again, this comes into kind of leveling out budgets. And so when we look at moving some items that were originally classified as AG, they were really a CTE cost. And so we just kind of switched the coding on some of those things. So yes, it does look that direction, but we're making some accounting changes. All right, and then just a little bit of breakout between high school and middle school. Again, you have athletics, girls and boys. The athletic directors were very gracious this year, and they gave me participation numbers. So that was one thing you as a board had asked for last year, is to get a number of participants. And so they were able to get that to us, and then Joe was able to get us the fine arts items there.
I see that FFA is not included.
That's again, I don't have those numbers. Yeah, I don't have those numbers yet.
Are the fine arts numbers, are they counting students twice? So like if you have a student that is, you're counting all of your band students for marching band season, and then are they counting some of those same students again for indoor?
If they're in multiple programs, yes. So it was broken out into by program, and then just totaling how much is in the program outside of how many specific students we have in that program.
And the same thing with athletics. So if
Correct.
you have a student that plays football, basketball, baseball, and soccer, they're getting counted in all four of those areas.
Yeah, because they're
And then-
participating in every single one.
And so then we're going to count those same numbers across, like for CTE students who are in multiple CTE classrooms and AG students who are in multiple AG activities, so like LDs and CDs or whatever that.
Potentially, yes.
Yes, okay.
Absolutely. All right, so after we fill up our bucket of that remaining 4%, again, this is getting us to a balanced budget. So the last 5 years, we were using fund balance. This current year, 24-25, we're adding the fund balance. And in 25-26, we're utilizing all of our resources to have a balanced budget. Again, this is not having additional money from the state. Doesn't include any information from optional homestead that the legislature potentially does. But what I do have in here is us at 93% attendance. So this gives us kind of a little bit of a buffer in the event that some of the numbers don't come in on our enrollment side, say that we have a decrease on our attendance. So there's a little bit of room for growth there that we have. In the 23-24 year, we were at 93.72% attendance. This year, we're at 94.38% attendance, and that number is going to actually go up because you just approved the waivers for us yesterday evening. So we've definitely increased by 1.5%, which is around a $450,000 net if you have 1.5% increase in attendance. And so what that can be utilized for is if we see those students come in, that could be additional staff, that could be additional funds that we give to our teachers, or it could be additional money that you as a board decide to put in a fund balance. And so that's kind of some of the decisions that you would have once we potentially have those funds available, that you'd be able to decide what you wanted to do with it.
Spencer, do we have any kind of a feel for what is going to, I know this is the $1 million question, what the legislature is leaning towards at all?
So they're leaning towards giving us money, but how that comes about, don't know, and how much is yet to be determined. There's still a chance that they don't come to a decision at all, and they have to go to special, and then they don't make a decision in special, right? So that's why I'm basing everything off of current law. The two proposals that are out there, the original House Bill 2 had a lot more in the basic allotment, which allows us to spread out those funds to all of our staff. The committee substitute House Bill that the Senate gave kind of earmarks it just for teachers. And yes, we want to give all of our staff as much as they want. Teachers deserve money. My wife's a teacher. I'd love to say, hey, we're going to give that to you. But again, it takes the entire staff of the district to work. And so if I had a decision, I would like to be able to present it to you as a board to have a little bit more control under the basic allotment, so that you could decide how much you want to give each group. But we won't know. They have to finish it up by June 2nd, so we'll see. All right, and then, so that's our general fund. Our child nutrition payroll makes up about 45% of that entire budget. And then the rest of it is essentially food costs and supplies, and that number just continues to climb and climb and climb. One of the things we did last year is we did have to bring a proposal to you to increase breakfast and lunch prices. We talked about we would potentially have to do it again in 25-26 year. So that is something that I'm going to work with Lacey on and see, getting with our ALE tool to see what would benefit us on this side, so we're not having to use fund balance. Under the current budget, if you go back to the first page, it's about $270,000 that we're using of fund balance in the child nutrition area. They have about $400,000, so it's about using half of that fund balance. So any little bit that we can do to help would be great, because moving forward, as food costs continue to rise and we have more students to serve, there's potential that that's going to become an expense item on the general fund in future years, which essentially just means we're going to take money from the general fund to pay for the child nutrition deficit that would potentially be there. So that would take some money out, which is why we always encourage all of our students and their parents to fill out all the forms to see if they're eligible for free reduced lunch. And then the last step that we would have to take is, unfortunately, raising prices of breakfast and lunch. Then the other one, the INS, that pays for bond payments. And then when we look at next steps, so again, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, publishing the preliminary budget that goes online, that has to run concurrently with our tax notice. That's going to be published on Thursday. June 9th is our second budget workshop, and then on June 16th, we will consider and adopt the 24-25 budget, and then the 25-26 budget. What we do not do until August is adopt the tax rate. So that just gives a little bit of information of kind of what we had talked about, so you have it in form there. Any other questions? for questions. I can email that document, get that set up so you can start answering your questions, and then I'll go back, listen to the recording and all the items that you requested, make sure that I get those to you as well.
So that's a one-way document. So you can enter a question, Spencer can answer it, put an answer on there, but no dialogue in between. It's just
So it's just dialogue between us and Spencer back, not with each other, is what you're saying, correct?
I think I've asked before, but I'm gonna ask again. Have we seen a percentage of our student population that are involved in any type of extracurricular? I know tons of our kids are involved in extracurricular. What is the percentage of students involved in extracurricular? Ag, choir, athletics?
We could get that number too.
Are we tracking that in CBAS?
We will, yes. Yeah. We'll have that finalized.
Is it possible to find that number out with other districts? Like, is what the average is and how we compare to that? I don't know.
Yeah, we can sure look and see, but so for us, we've already been talking about evidence and different things for our community report and extracurricular, across the board, where our kids involved in, what percentages and different things. So you'll get a good look at that in the community report when that comes as well. But you might even see it sooner, but yes, we're getting that information for everyone.
Spencer, where do some of our academic, UIL, extracurricular type things fall? And speech and debate, what do those fall? They aren't CTE.
Correct. So those fall under the campus allotments.
Okay.
Any other questions for Spencer?
So what is your plan to make this information available to,
So all this information,
particularly for the other board members that weren't here?
it is in board book for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Already posted now?
It is, yes, sir.
There's a link.
And there's a link to the presentation as well, but I've made PDF copies of everything that you saw and put it in there, and some other information that I didn't share, but just kind of back-end calculations.
Great, thank you. So for the board members, are there other views of the data that you may have seen in the past that are relevant or important? Or if new sets of eyes have different thoughts on ways of seeing the data, please bring that up.
So one thing is, it sounds like if, we don't know the status of future bond success, right? But yet we know, based on last night's meeting, that there are significant needs that need to be addressed that are expensive. I didn't see, based on the data and how we've allocated it, I don't know how we fit in some of those expensive repairs that we talked about last night. I don't know how those fit in.
Right, and so that's where we have to kind of get creative in how we address some of those items. And it's not necessarily that we are foregoing our responsibility of continued maintenance, but when we look at what a school district does, it should be in the vein of educating kids, not really just replacing roofs. And so when those items come up that we request the community help for, it definitely is a significant relief to the budget to where we can provide the students and staff what they need outside of the general fund.
I think we had asked about, you had mentioned before, what is our current bond capacity? Do you have any idea? I know it's going to be hard until we get certified values, but
We do. So talked to Jeff Rubbert, our FA, and we have a couple of numbers of potential capacity. It would be based on future growth of if the values continue to be frozen or not frozen. So there's a lot of calculations that go into that. Because the homestead exemption came and was voted last year going from 40,000 to 100,000, we actually lost a little over 300 million of bond capacity. If the bond would have been approved, then we would have had that be held harmless by the state. So the state would have been picking up a lot of that funds and not necessarily the taxpayers. So to answer your question, it's significantly less than it was before, a little bit less than half. So anywhere from 115, 120 million to 175 million.
So that didn't get us very much.
Does not get us very far.
That's based on our current enrollment, our current.
Was based on current values.
Yeah,
Current values.
But that bond capacity had, if we experience another significant influx of growth that comes in, similar to what we had in 22, 23, I'll assume that bond capacity would increase.
It would, if you remember, the average value in Godley ISD is about 375,000. Previously, we were being able to receive around 330,000 of tax on that. With the homestead exemption, now it's 275. If another 40 is done, then that number goes down to 230. So that also impacts, because the state is in the future not holding us harmless like they did previously.
Going back to the repairing some roofs and things, you're still going to bring those numbers to us in
Yes, ma'am.
June at our meeting, or are we going to do it at the budget meeting?
If not sooner. So one of the items that I have on my list for the remainder of this week, after we got through today, was to reach out to them and see what the time frame is, because more than likely they're going to need, obviously, to remove stuff, have cranes, etc. And so we would want to do that during the summer, before school starts. It's also typically the driest season, and so depending on how long that they need, we could wait until June 9th or June 16th, or if they say that it's really an 8-week process and we need to start June 2nd, we might potentially have something where we request a special board meeting to get that approved, to get that started. Okay, thank you all very much.
Any other questions?
Just thank you, Spencer. You're always very thorough, and your presentation was spotless, and you can tell you put a lot of work and effort and heart into it, so we thank you for that.
Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you, Spencer. Appreciate that. Okay, and I don't know the reason we're closed tonight, so
I think
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
all right, we are adjourned.
Thank you to all of you who came tonight. We appreciate you being here.